Hello and welcome to Maths Moments Mondays, bite-sized maths PD by teachers and for teachers. So every week we get a new maths teacher to come in and show us something awesome that they're doing in their class. And this week is episode 8 and we are joined by the incredible Michael Bates. Now I'm excited for this one because I think it might be a little bit controversial and I love a bit of controversy. Michael's going to be talking about textbooks and how awesome textbooks are for instituting evidence-based learning. So, take it away, Michael.
Hi, today I'm going to be talking about a bit of a dull topic, but I'm a dull person. Textbooks, and why I love them. Textbooks are actually a really powerful tool to support evidence-based teaching and learning. We're going to look at differentiation, optimizing learning, feedback, and teaching for mastery. I have a brief review of the strength of evidence of these and look at how textbooks can be used to support them. Last up, we'll look at a couple of other things that I really like about textbooks. First of all, differentiation. We're going to look at differentiation, and this review article here nicely articulates what differentiation means. Struggling students may work on too difficult tasks, or conversely, high-ability students may practice skills they've already mastered. As an interesting aside, this review that was done back in 2019 found only a small to moderate effect size for differentiation. Irrespective of your opinion about differentiation, it's deeply embedded in the Australian professional standards for teachers. So how can textbooks be used to support differentiation? A lot of textbooks now will show how different questions can be used for different levels of learning. For example, in Jacaranda's textbook, students can choose a different pathway depending on their level. They can also self-select questions. Next, optimal learning. Researchers have empirically found that if you're getting around 85% of things correct, you're learning at the optimal level. Like differentiation, a pathway can be chosen from the textbook's suggestions to reach that optimal learning zone. This 85% rule can also be used to help students with self-selecting questions. Getting everything right, you need harder questions. Getting too many wrong, go back and do some easier questions. Next, feedback. The Evidence for Learning Organisation describes feedback as very high impact for very low cost, based on extensive evidence. Feedback in textbooks, when used properly, is instantaneous. Online textbooks arguably make this process even easier because you don't have to flip back and forth to the answer page. One thing that is really important to remember is to ensure that students are checking their answers. I say the only thing worse than not practicing is practicing the wrong procedure. So students need to really need to actually check their answers, and frequently. I say no less than once every third sort of sub-question. But for a topic that students are not very familiar or confident with, they need to do it every single question. Next, teaching for mastery, which recognises the importance of practice to achieving deeper conceptual understanding. Studies in UK primary schools have shown that this approach lifts achievement in disadvantaged schools. Teaching for mastery is often associated with repetition and is the approach in high-achieving jurisdictions like Singapore and Shanghai. There's a study here that directly compares varied repetition with a more Western-style approach. They found it significantly lifts achievement standards, conceptual understanding, and retention. It is but one study, but it demands our attention. Personally, it's one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got from a maths teacher when I was a student. You do questions. And when you don't think you can possibly do any more questions, you do more questions. Don't waste time rewriting or summarizing notes. That's effective in other learning areas. It's not an effective strategy in maths. This is a great example here. One of my favorite chapters in any secondary school textbook. The quadratics out of Jacaranda. It's varied and there's lots of questions. How varied questions need to be depends on where students are in their learning journey. For a new concept, the variation usually needs to be quite slight. As they build confidence, the variation should get bigger. Many worksheets that I've seen will just have students doing the same calculation over and over again with a high level of scaffolding. Variation is important to ensure students engage meaningfully in the questions. All these strategies work together. Feedback tells students if the questions they're doing are too easy or difficult, which informs differentiation and optimal learning. The 85% goal tells students what level of questions they should be doing. Too many right, do harder questions. Too many wrong, do easier questions. It also informs how varied the questions need to be, which is related to mastery. When I started teaching, I got my first year 7 class, and they didn't have the foggiest idea how to use a textbook. Students need to be taught how to use textbooks, and it is a learned skill for students to be able to use them effectively. Finally, there is a decent proportion of students who, for a variety of reasons, need more structure than what I'm advocating here. For those students, you will need to be more prescriptive about how they use the textbook. And that's all good. It's better that those students actually do some questions and practice in a suboptimal way than don't practice at all. Another thing that I feel that textbooks do really well is equity. Using worked examples directly related to the practice questions improves equity for students who can't be in your classroom for a particular reason on a particular day. Practice questions are linked to worked examples. The explanations that accompany those worked examples are often detailed. I always do worked examples, but save them digitally and send them to absent students. The last thing I think they're amazing for is revision. Textbook review chapters in textbooks usually have got a variety of questions and question styles, starting with multiple choice, moving on to some fluency type questions, and then going into problem solving. My advice to students who are revising for a test is always go to the revision chapter. Start to work your way through questions. Any questions that you're having trouble with, go back and find the appropriate section. Review the worked examples and then do extra practice questions out of that section. It allows students to be really strategic in the way that they approach their revision and focus their revision and their practice on areas of weakness rather than areas of strength. There's no point practicing over and over again something that you've already mastered. Thanks very much for listening to my little rant about how much I love textbooks.